And we're back for another casual conversation with the classic, and it's a morning edition because Alicia's here to have a cup of coffee with me. And for those who don't know, this is none other than my fellow Canadian, the interview queen herself. You might see her interviews on YouTube. You might have seen her on Impact. You might have seen her at All In and Double or Nothing. And more recently, you see her all the time at MLW. It's none other than Alicia Atout. How are you doing today?
Hi, what a lovely intro. I am
Thanks.
doing as well as can be, all things considered. Crazy times right now, but I'm hanging in there. My carpal tunnel's been like awful. So if you guys see me all day, I've been getting comments from people after doing a live. They're like, "Did you break something?" So that's been a bit of a pain in the butt, but otherwise I am trucking along. How are you?
That seems like the theme of 2020. It's always something. Like,
Always.
even when it's nothing, it's always something. And speaking about that, like even with us, we've been trying to do this, I think, for like a month now. And every time we try to get together, we set a date. It's always something. And even today, like I kind of woke up late with allergies. But I'm like, no, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this in the next 20 minutes. I don't care what happens. It's gonna happen. So I'm glad to have you on here. But yeah, it's always something this year. It's been a little crazy. What I do want to point out really quickly before we move on talking about everything else you're doing is I do love the way like you've adapted during this quarantine. Like you're still doing interviews. You're still making it happen.
I gotta live up to the name.
when the world went on lockdown, were you a little concerned and worried?
Honestly, the way it went down was kind of terrifying because one, you're faced with actually the realization that you are literally living your life through a pandemic, and that in itself is just so scary to think about because it's serious. Like it's literally deadly serious. So that was terrifying. But I was actually in Tijuana, Mexico with MLW, and all of the guys and I are in the locker room, and we're literally getting all these alerts like, oh, this show's canceled. Oh, this show's canceled. Oh, shoot, Mania, is it canceled? Like we were just all in the room, all losing all our bookings. So it was kind of really crappy on that front too, because work for months is gone and you think, oh my gosh, how am I going to make money? And it was just one of those things where your brain just goes into 30 different directions that it just freezes and you're like, what am I going to do here? So luckily, after a little bit of brainstorming, I was able to figure it out, work through it, get some great ideas. Luckily, thanks to technology, I'm hosting tons of interviews every day, which is great. I'm still going strong with like the fashion campaigns and that kind of stuff. So I'm keeping busy. I'm almost busier than ever, aside from only being at home.
No, you're definitely really, really busy. I can tell.
Yeah.
No, it's really dope. Like I see that you're still getting these interviews. You're still doing the thing. Like this all spawned off of the lockdown because like I got home from California and it was so go, and I came home and then I was like, what am I supposed to do now? Like I do the one TWC show every week, but I'm like, I'm gonna get bored. Like I need to do more. And then I was like, I know I got to network and meet so many cool people. Might as well like be like, hey, do you want to just sit down with me for a casual conversation? Just shoot and see what happens. And it's worked out. But moving forward, Amby, it started off as you interviewing musicians. It was a music interview with Brand. How did it move into wrestling? What was your first wrestling interview and how did that transition happen?
Yes. So there got to a point where I had interviewed like the who's who of music that I really wanted to, and I was almost at a standstill where I was like, okay, do I continue doing the music stuff? Do I expand more? Like, what's the game plan? And then my dad actually pointed out to me, like, you love music. You've done a really good job here. You're growing this following. Why don't you try wrestling? Because you also are a huge wrestling fan. I have been since I was a kid. So I contacted a local promotion here in Toronto, and Ali, Cherry Bomb, well, Ali now, but she was at the show, and she was gracious enough to give me her time there. So I went down, knocked out the interview, and I was like, oh my gosh, I think I can do this. Like, this is really cool. You don't know if it's going to be the same as interviewing a musician, how different it's going to be, different atmosphere, different business, but it just felt right. So after that one interview, it kind of gave me the courage to keep going forward and interviewing more people. And then, I literally just came into wrestling thinking, oh, cool, like this is going to be awesome for my YouTube growth. Next thing I know, like I was just pushed into backstage stuff and hosting and announcing. And then it was this whole world I didn't even think of 3 years ago. So it's been a lot, but it's been awesome.
What's your earliest wrestling memory, like as a kid? Like what got you hooked? Like what do you remember seeing and you're like, wow, like it made you a wrestling fan?
Definitely Hell in a Cell. Like that match to me was so iconic. And I think I hosted the tour for Foley, like the 20 years of Hell last summer. So I guess it's 21. So I would have been 3 or 4 when that happened. So like I just remember watching it thinking like, oh my gosh, who is this dude? Why is this like Taker freaked me out? I remember the cage, and then when they went on top, obviously like the iconic fall, him having the tooth in his nose, like just all
Yeah.
of this. Can I swear on here?
No, you ready to go ahead. It's casual conversation. I
Awesome.
swear all the time.
It was
I'm
like,
really bad at being. No, I'm not trying to throw myself under the bus, but I'm not always the most professional person. So that's why I had to make sure it's casual. Like,
all good.
okay.
No, but like it was one of those batshit crazy moments where I just remember looking, thinking like, oh my gosh, and that's all I remember. Like I don't really remember the match. Of course, now it's in my brain because I've seen it so many times since. But like
Yeah.
I just remember thinking like, what is this chaos? I'm so attracted to it. And then then I just kept watching it with my dad, and when his friends would come over, and it just obviously
Did you have a favorite? Like, who was your favorite? Like when they were on TV, like you needed to watch.
Edge, Jericho, Randy Orton, and
Yeah.
Cena. Like those were definitely my favorites growing
That's
up.
your generation. No, for sure. That's great.
Yeah.
I love a lot of those guys too. And I wasn't the biggest Cena fan at one point, but he's grew. I mean, I respect the living crap out of the guy now. He's the man.
I don't know how people can't, like he's
Yeah.
just like the best human being on the face of the earth.
It's crazy. Even if he does anything bad, it's kind of like, but it's Cena, like, on that note, like you've interviewed a plethora of amazing people. I've watched a ton of your interviews. Some of the ones that some of your chemistry with some people like MJF and Scarlett is just, it's tremendous. It's entertaining as hell. I love the gimmick going on there. But for you, someone who's interviewed a ton of people, I know there's a plethora of wrestlers in the world. There's never a shortage of wrestlers you can interview, from current ones to legends to ones that are coming up. But who is your dream interview? Who's someone you haven't interviewed yet that you would love to interview?
So I know I mentioned him already, but Cena's definitely someone I would love to have on.
Yeah.
The Rock for sure, because I think if I announced that, like my fans would go insane. So I think that would just be incredible. Plus, like before he even did movies, like I just remember watching him thinking he is the most incredible person to have ever held a microphone ever. So I just think having him on would be so much fun. He just seems like a cool dude, honestly.
That would be so entertaining, and he knows what he's doing when you interview him too. So I think it'd be a good back and forth. Yeah,
it'd be so much fun. So those are my two, and I know they're huge names, but at the same time, like if I didn't make big goals, I wouldn't have had like the other big names that I've been able to get thus far. So always striving for bigger and better.
100%. I can see either one of those happening in the next 2 years the way you're going. And that's just from my perspective. So I'm rooting for you. I see that happening within the next couple of years. Definitely can see you. Maybe Cena before The Rock, but if it's The Rock first, that'd be insane. Moving forward, on the flip side, like who have been some of your favorite people to interview so far that you have interviewed already? Like if someone is getting to know Alicia Atout for the first time right now, what would you say? Go on YouTube, watch this.
I think people would love the interviews with the Bucks, Omega. Anytime that I have like Jay White or Tama Tonga on, like those are always such casual, fun conversations with like friends. Like that's pretty much how it feels. I've done like 8 of them with Jay at this point, so like you just kick back and watch a marathon of them. So those are super, super fun for me. And then if you also happen to like music, like I've interviewed everyone from Metallica to Motorhead. So there's a lot of goodies when you scroll through there. And then if you like pop, like there's Charlie Puth to Dua Lipa to Charlie XCX.
That's insane.
It's literally the most eclectic channel ever, but it's my two passions, and I feel like that really comes through when you watch the interviews because I just want to have a good time as well. So yeah.
What was your very first interview, like with a musician? Like what was the first interview where you're like, oh, maybe I can keep doing this? Like where did you get your feet wet? Because I remember I've been very fortunate to like, once again, my goal was never to be an interviewer, but I got very fortunate to like connect and out with people who are like, yo, just interview me. Let's do an interview together and we'll put it on your page and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like, I think my first one was the Ginger, and it was great, but then it was very blurry and weird because the live stream was wrong and all this stuff happened. And then the second one was with Sheamus. And if you ever watch that, go back and watch it. I don't know what I'm doing with my hands the entire time. Like I'm so nervous. My hands have like a whole mind of their own. But what was your first interview, and like how did you feel? Were you nervous?
Yeah, so my first interview was not planned at all. I went to a concert with my dad and my sister for a band called Bombay Bicycle Club. They're one of my favorite bands ever. And we go down, we had this really shitty little white camera, and it wasn't even HD. I was just taking photos of the band because you could like super zoom using it.
Yeah.
So I was doing that. My sister drew some artwork of one of the band members, and they happened to be just like chilling outside of the fence. So I walked up to them, we got her photo signed, and my dad actually was like, why don't you ask them a couple questions? Like, that could be fun. Because at that point, I didn't have a YouTube channel. I just had a website that was maybe going on for like 5 months at that point. Like that was it. So it's kind of crazy because he just threw me in it and he's like, why don't you ask them some questions instead of just reviewing stuff? And I was like, okay. So I asked 2 random ass questions to them. I was super nervous. You can just tell how awkward it was. I was just staring at these like this band I loved and adored. And yeah, it wasn't great, but you know, we all start somewhere.
Yeah, of course. So obviously life is it's weird. It works in weird ways, and you started interviewing, and that kind of became what you're doing now, and that's like your passion, your work, and everything you do. But was there something you wanted to do before interviewing, before this randomly showed up? Because it's funny because like I think we make goals for ourselves, but like you started it without knowing what was going to come from it, and it just blew up. And you're like, oh, I can run with this. There's an opportunity here, and I actually enjoy doing it. But prior to falling into this, because I always say it's a mixture of luck and hard work, but prior to falling into it, did you have other goals? Was there something else you wanted to do?
Yeah, so in high school, I was studying to take journalism, and I was actually accepted to all the universities I applied to. And
Wow.
sorry, I have 2 interviews already under my belt. So my voice is going.
No, I know you're busy.
You must know, like, man.
I gotta record the TWC show right after this at some point.
Oh,
so.
fun. But yeah, so it was like I was accepted into all these places, and then when I was reading all of the criteria, it just didn't feel right. Like they wanted me to go out and report or like talk about car crashes or pandemics, and like there's definitely those are jobs that we need, but I wanted to go and write about bands or like the more creative kind of stuff. So I was like, maybe I just won't get back to any of these places. So I remember the deadlines came up, and I went to my mom and dad, and they knew all of this. I went to my mom and dad, and I was like, the deadline passed, guys. So I guess it's like definitely a thing now. Like I'm not going to university. So yeah, journalism obviously didn't pan out because I wasn't feeling it. At that point, I had my site as a hobby where I was doing like those small 2-question kind of interviews with bands for about like maybe like half a year or so. And then graduation comes along and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna stick it out and see where this goes. And I was literally looking at my site as my job. So the only other thing I wanted to do aside from journalism was like be in a rock band or something, like be like a new Haley Williams or something.
Yeah.
But you know, that obviously also didn't pan out. I ended up interviewing the musicians.
I mean, never say never. You can rock it as an interviewer, and then one day when you get some more creative freedom and time, you could, you know, start a band like Fozzy, because Jericho didn't just have Fozzy right off the bat. You could do both. It's possible. He's the proof of that.
Trust me, I know. It's like I started posting out of boredom. I started posting like on TikTok and stuff because unfortunately I installed that. But I saw
that. I can totally feel that. But go on. Yeah.
But I started posting like videos of me singing and stuff, and like when I post them, they do decently well. Like people are like, "Oh my gosh, you can actually sing!" And my whole thing is like, you never know who's going to see your stuff, because I have had like literally some of my favorite companies reach out to me saying, "Hey, like we'd like to fly you here, work with you here." So at this point, I'm just like throwing everything out into the universe and being like, "Hey, if you need a singer, like." What's up? So,
well, it's insane. I'll say from my own personal experience, like I have a TikTok. I don't put any TikToks up. I just kind of use it because for me, content is king. So if there's something on there that I can post on my page or my story, and the rest of it are TikToking and stuff, then I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna put it over there. But I do follow you on TikTok, and I'm gonna say, like, I think you were covering "Say So" by Doja Cat or whatever, and I was like, whoa, like this girl can sing. Like I didn't see that coming. And I actually shared it on my story because I was like, oh, and I have a ton of musicians and people in the musical industry that do follow me, mostly on the hip hop side for some reason, because hip hop and wrestling has a major crossover.
Huge.
Yeah. But a ton of hip rappers and producers follow me. And anytime I see someone that's actually a talented singer, because other than wrestling, I really love music. Like, I mean, the Beatles, and you can't see mine, but John Lennon and Tupac and whatnot on my wall. But like, yeah, so when I saw you sing, I was like, oh, you're actually really good. I do think there's something there maybe in the future. You if you get the time to do it.
I appreciate that. Like I'll post photographs on Instagram that kind of look like they could be like a pop record or like a pop like promo photo. Yeah. And people are like, oh, when are you dropping that like next mixtape? And I'm like, summer 2020. But like there's never going to, you know what I mean? Like there's no real plan of that. But I can totally see it happening. Like I've heard worse. So
I do too. I think this, I mean, what are you, 25, 24?
Yeah, 25.
You're like a bit, not that I'm not that much older than you, but like you're still so young. You got all the time in the world. Don't worry about it. You're killing what you're doing right now. You're focusing on that. It's gonna grow, and then watch. By the time you're like 30, you're like, oh, I finally have a little bit of free time. Like maybe I should try this singing out. And you'll probably meet someone with what you're doing that's in that field. That's like, oh, I got a studio. Why don't you just try to come in here?
Right.
I promise you, it'll probably happen. I'll hit you back up like 5 years from now, and if you tell me that you went in the studio, and I'm like, I told you so. I called it right here. Even if it was just for fun, and you just went in the studio and you knocked out a track or something, I'm like, I knew it. I called it.
Right.
Other than that, let's talk about the stuff you've done beyond moving forward. Like, I also want to point out, I found it really funny that you said you took journalism, but then you realized you didn't want to talk about the things that they were talking about, and you want to do your own thing. I took a journalism class, okay? And I was sitting in journalism, and in my mind, I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, don't get me wrong, the news and newspapers are still so important. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to talk about any of those things. So what am I doing in this class? Like, you know what I mean?
That. Yeah.
And I was like, and we live in a certain time in history, or just our current society. Like, you can become bigger than any journalist if you go out there and try to do it yourself. Like, I'm like, look at all these vloggers and bloggers that have no like degree, or like they're not like a certified journalist, but they're making millions of dollars because they just went to their niche market and they started doing it and it worked. And it's kind of what I kind of did. It's kind of what you kind of did, but it's kind of cool.
Totally.
Moving forward though, so I first remember seeing you on television personally on Impact. How was that? How was that experience?
It was cool for me because I had never really done anything for TV wrestling wise before that. The local promotion here that I first worked for, Smash Wrestling, they did have a TV deal for Canada, but obviously Impact was in like a ton of different countries, so it was like really cool for me. So I learned a lot from that experience, and like I learned stuff about the industry that I really, really liked, and then I kind of learned like what I really wanted to improve on for myself, and like where I wanted to end up and everything. And like it just really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff and how things run. And I met a lot of really cool people from there though, and like I was given a lot of great opportunities, like that Scarlett promo that we did that like pretty much went viral, the Shut Up 5-1, like I got to do that there. And that was really fun for me. And then it sparked that like little feud thing that her and I still to this day kind of banter. I love it.
It's so funny, man. It's so natural too. It comes off naturally. Another thing I want to point out, working with Smash, did that help a lot with you being able to interview wrestlers? Because sometimes it's hard making those connections to get that interview, but if you're working with a company like that, it does help, does it not?
Oh, it definitely did. Because at first I was just going in, interviewing a couple of wrestlers. Then it got to the point where I would come down and interview like 8 wrestlers in a night, straight up, because I was just like, I'm here. Then that actually led me to like my eyes opened there, because Seb, the owner, came up to me and he's like, hey, we're looking at getting a backstage host, and we know all the guys like really like you here. So would you be interested? Like, you already have chemistry with our talent. And I was like, like I've never acted, like I've watched it on television, but like I don't know how this works. Like I was very naive. I was literally a fan, just interviewing people for my show. I didn't know the behind the scenes stuff really. So I was like, you know what? F it, let's try it. Like whatever. I'm open to it. So I ended up doing backstage stuff for them, and that's what opened my eyes and kind of propelled me to working and making connections with like the people at Impact, which obviously once from there, like I started getting known for that and my YouTube channel. Then I started doing the AEW stuff, and like it just really propelled into everything.
Yeah.
So
how was All In and Double or Nothing?
Amazing. It was so cool. Like for one reason, like for a narcissistic reason, I remember doing the promo with Kylie Ray, and like when it aired, I was getting my makeup done because it was like a pre-tape. But I remember the crowd, like when I came on screen, like popping, and when she came on, it was like a roar, and it was just so cool to hear, like, oh my god, people care, like that's awesome. And the fact that like those dudes saw something in me, Cody and the Bucks at the time, it meant the world to me, because I've been a fan of theirs for so long, a very, very long time. And when they were like, yeah, we want you to be our girl, like we want you to be the person for these 2 events, it blew my mind. So I'm forever grateful. It opened so many doors, gave me so many fans. It was just, they were 2 incredible nights.
And regardless of the fact, you're always going to be a part of history, because those are 2 very important events when it comes to All Elite Wrestling. All In was the predecessor that led to All Elite Wrestling, and you were a part of that, and that's a huge deal. I remember being there live in the crowd and seeing you on the screen. I'm like, oh, that's that Alicia girl again. That's insane. And then Double or Nothing came around, and like that's something to be really proud of, and that's huge. Now you move forward and you're with MLW. Let's talk about MLW because there's a couple of questions I do want to ask you, and we're running low on time here. But let's talk about MLW. How's MLW? What's going on with them? What can you have looking forward with moving forward with MLW? Wow, what a jumble of words.
It happens. MLW has been absolutely incredible. Since signing with them, I should really look this up, but it was like late December, early January.
Yeah.
It's been incredible. They've really exceeded every expectation I had of signing with the company. You kind of hear all these rumors about people signing places, and like you hear these horror stories. You're like, oh, they told me this, and they just don't use me. Like you hear a lot of crap.
Yeah.
And so I was like I'm signing away like a few years, like oh, fingers crossed. And luckily, I just don't have complaints, which is so rare. I didn't think it would be this easy. I love it there. So things have been really great right now. So obviously there's a worldwide pandemic going on right now. And so my boss, Court, really wanted to make sure that everyone's safety was a priority because you can literally sterilize the crap out of places. And unfortunately, we're seeing spots that have had outbreaks or people who now, have tested. So he's really just trying to take everyone's safety into consideration, which we really appreciate. So because we're not doing live tapings right now, we've come up with a ton of web series and stuff. We're kind of shopping around to places. So they gave me my own show, and I have a great co-host.
Really?
Yeah, I have a great co-host who is yet to be announced, but we filmed a pilot. We're showing it to some places, and yeah, I can't wait to release it. I can't wait for people to see the concept, the shirts we have in mind. Like, it's a whole thing we've been working on for a couple months, and I'm just like blown away that I've been with them for 6 months now, and they're already like, we see so much potential in you. Like, we want to just give you your own show to host. It's amazing.
That's insane. I'm really looking forward to it. And once again, if you guys need help with anything social media wise, hit me up. I'm down to promote the show and help share it and do all of that fun stuff. Just you know where to find me. I think this is exciting as hell. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And it's good for them to get creative in a time when it seems like they can't really be putting on shows. Like, let's give them the content. They got a big library going back to the early 2000s. I know they took a long break, but they have that old content too that a lot of people haven't seen. So it's going to be really cool. I'm looking forward to that. And you have great merchandise as it is, so I do not doubt that the merchandise that might be coming out is going to be real cool. I need to get myself some merch. Every time I kind of like something and I'm about to get it, it gets sold out because I'm usually an impulsive buyer, but then sometimes I'm a little slow. It depends on the situation. But yeah, I think it's going to be great. Moving forward, I have a couple more questions for you, and I know we're going to wrap up. So one that I really just want to ask you personally, because I just think knowing you and seeing your social media and following you on social media and spending so much time on social media myself, I see some of the stuff you have to deal with. How do you deal with all the creepy comments, the creepy DMs? Like, don't get me wrong, you are really pretty, but that sometimes I think that can be a detriment because I feel like you just get attacked with that, and it must not be that fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of crap you deal with. Honestly, like, it's weird because the comments about my looks, whether they're just like douchey or just like wrong, it's really easy to turn a blind eye and just ignore them. It's when people try to like diss my interviewing or like, oh, why is she on TV? She sucks. Or like, why was she there? That's where I'm kind of like, you can go screw yourself. But do
you ever get the, oh, she's only there because she's pretty comment?
Yeah. I remember doing a show once and people like chanted that, and I was like, okay, you can go fuck yourself, but whatever.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that happens, and sometimes you hear it and you're like, you could be having a bad day and you're like, there's no truth to it, but it gets to you.
Yeah.
But I just take a step back, and I'm like, I've literally worked with like every major promotion, whether they hired me or I'm interviewing their talent. So it's like, people see something in me, and if some dumbass troll wants to say something, like, it just doesn't bother me anymore.
People don't know boundaries, and that's why I was curious.
No.
It's harder for, I think, women than it is for me. Don't get me wrong. People don't know boundaries with me, and I'm a dude, and people are DMing me, like, saying things that, like, I'm like, what? Who are you? Like, what? Right. Like, but like for you guys, it goes in a whole different direction. I've always been curious because, like, you want to be a public figure, you want to put yourself out there, and what people don't understand about doing that, you're really putting yourself out of your comfort zone. We're not all fully comfortable just doing stuff like this and putting ourselves out there. And then when we actually do it, and then we can read all the positive feedback and it's great, but the negative ones for some reason stick, and you're like, what the hell, like, why would they say that? And it sucks. So I just want to see how that worked out for you. And like, I'm sure you get the weirdest DMs. I have my fair share of people I'm friends with that are in the industry, and they've told me what kind of DMs they get. So it's crazy out there, and I just want to break that perception that, like, you put in your reps. Like, I even on a 30-minute conversation. We talked about how you put in your reps. You were doing interviews with musicians. You moved to wrestlers. Then you did some stuff with Impact. Then you got your Smash, where you got really accustomed with wrestlers and stuff and doing interviews regularly, like 8 in a row. Then you got accustomed to TV stuff with Impact. Then you got to do the stuff with AEW. Now you're with MLW, and you're kind of like, you're really well seasoned, and you have all this experience, and you don't realize that all those things you did before led up to you being really good at what you're doing right now. And you're still gonna get better to do bigger things in the future. If people don't see that, now you heard it here. That's who Alicia Atout is. So she's not just someone that does interviews with the wrestlers. She's an actual wrestling fan, because I don't know, women get the hardest time being actual wrestling fans for some reason. She's an actual wrestling fan. She grew up loving wrestling. She's been killing it, and she's going to continue to kill it. Now, the last question I have for you, because I know we have to wrap it up, and this is a question I try to ask everybody that comes on here, because on the flip side of the negative stuff we just kind of talked about, on a positive side, a lot of people do look up to you. They look at what you're doing. They want to try to do the same thing or do something similar. Or you inspire them. Or they're like, man, I want to be like Alicia. Like, there's going to be a ton of little girls. You don't know it yet. That are going to see what you're doing and be like, damn, like, I want to do what she does, kind of thing. And I'm sure there's interviews you watched on WWE and stuff that you're like, oh, that's so cool. And taking stuff from them and seeing what they do and kind of being like, trying to create your own personality based off of what you see from them. What advice would you give someone that would want to maybe go this route, doing interviews, getting into the wrestling business, which is a very tricky business in itself? But what would, if you could talk to 15-year-old Alicia again, what would you tell her from what you know now?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest thing, for one, don't take any bullshit. A lot of people try to take advantage of people, whether their age or just like certain situations you could be in. So just like, honestly, go with your gut on a lot of stuff. But the main thing is like, don't be afraid of failure or being told no or trying something new, because if I didn't try the backstage interviews, the ring announcing, it literally would not have led me to where I am this very moment. So whether it's 100 doors that get slammed in your face, literally all it takes is one to open, and that can literally change your life. So don't be afraid to fall on your ass. Don't be afraid to look like a doofus. Have fun with it and just be yourself, because when you're genuine, that's when people really start to connect with you. So I think like those are kind of the base things I would say.
No, that's perfect. How many times have you ever interviewed someone and then they slid in your DMs after? Is that like a common thing?
Yeah, it's really frustrating because like I have a boyfriend, and like it was very public, so people are just idiots. So, those don't even get clicked on. They're just.
No, I was just curious. So I'm like, I think as a male interviewer, that doesn't happen, but I feel like that would happen because I've hung out with girls at events and stuff, and I've taken them with me, and I've had, without dropping names, people be like, "Oh, is that your girlfriend?" I'm like, "Oh no, she's just a friend." And then like literally 5 minutes later, like hitting on her, and I'm like, "Oh,
right,
okay." They just want to make sure the way was clear, and now they're on it. I'm like, okay, I see how it is. I'm like, the wrestling industry, this is how it goes. But It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you for giving me your time. I really appreciate it. I know you're really busy. You got a ton of things to get to. Hopefully we get to do this again one day. We'll catch up or something, and we'll see what maybe we can talk about the MLW show once it officially drops, and can spend like 10-15 minutes just plugging that. We'll do another one of these or something. We'll go live on Instagram maybe for that, and we'll talk with the people. But it was a pleasure having you. I really, really, really appreciate you making the time for me. I've been watching you from afar. I've been a fan. I've been supporting. I dig what you do. I love the interviews. You're natural at it. Like
Thank you.
There's so many people that try to do wrestling interviews, myself included, occasionally, I guess. But there's only a few of you out there that I personally really enjoy watching, and you're on the top of that list. You're in the top 5. I'm like, oh, Alicia dropped another interview. Yeah, let's check it out.
Thank you so much.
You have a good rapport with the wrestlers. They seem to trust you. You ask the right questions. It's not always the same boring interview. It's always a good time. And I'm just plugging you away so everyone that listens to this knows to check out Alicia Atout. Where can they find you?
Yes, if you guys just search up Alicia Atout in your Google machines, you will find my Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my YouTube channel, and my merch store, where I have everything from t-shirts to personalized videos to like Skype quarantine session kind of things, shirts. Like there's everything in there. So that's been really helping me during these times, and I've been trying to do deals and everything to help people, so it's not as like, it softens the blow if you're buying like a lot of stuff. And I just really appreciate anyone watching an interview, liking a random video, following. Like every little piece genuinely means so much to me, because if you would have told like 16-year-old me when I first started this, oh yeah, you're gonna have like tons of people who like what you do and thousands and thousands of views. Like, it just never, I'd have been like, you're shitting me. So yeah, it's amazing. So just thank you so much to everyone for their support, and thank you to you for wanting to have me on.
No, of course, I want to talk to you. Like I said, I'm like, man, I know a lot of cool people. I've been able to talk to a lot of cool people. Like, I want to sit down and just have great conversations with them so other people can get to know them as well if they don't know them already. And I hope a lot of people after this go subscribe to your YouTube channel, go like her videos. Look forward to watching her videos and her interviews. Look forward to watching on MLW in this exclusive show. And do not drop creepy comments or slide in your DMs unnecessarily, people. Don't do that. Coming from yours truly, the Wrestling Classic. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to let you go because trust me, I can ramble on forever. We'll see you all next time. Anything you want to add? That's it.
Thank you, guys.
That's it. Dig it.
It's time to say goodnight. We sincerely appreciate your patronage and hope we've succeeded in bringing you an enjoyable evening of entertainment. Please drive home carefully and come back again soon. Good night.